The display cage on Zero's Prime. The market on Zero's Prime was loud, crowded, and filled with strange smells. Reed Carson had only landed his cargo ship to refuel, but now he found himself walking through rows of merchant stalls. Alien voices. Shouted prices, machines blinked, and creatures in cages growled. Reed didn't like places like this. Too many eyes. Too many secrets. He passed a tent with blinking lights and loud music. The sign above read, "Live amusements, rare and exotic." He was about to walk past when something made him stop. Not a sound. Not a voice. Just a feeling. Inside the tent was a golden cage. Chains hung from the top, and inside that cage sat a girl. She wasn't human. Her skin was a soft silver, glowing slightly in the dim light. Her long white hair fell across her face. Her wrists and ankles were shackled with glowing cuffs. She didn't move. She didn't speak. But her eyes, those glowing blue eyes, were watching Reed. A loud alien merchant laughed behind him. "Ah, you like the look of her, human. Rare breed, that one. Silent, trained, and beautiful. Good for company. Fun for parties. You want a closer look?" Reed frowned. "What's she doing in a cage?" "She's merchandise," the merchant grinned. "Entertainment for the high-paying. Don't worry, she's safe. Chained by control cuffs. She doesn't bite, unless you pay extra." Reed didn't smile. Something about the girl bothered him. She looked so calm, but her eyes were too focused, too alive, not broken. Not like the others he had seen. He stepped closer. The crowd faded in the background. The girl raised her head. Her lips barely moved, but he heard it somehow. "Claim me, or I'll suffer here until I die." The words chilled him. He looked around. No one reacted. Had she spoken telepathically? He wasn't sure. "What did you say?" he whispered. The girl looked straight into his eyes. Her voice came again, quiet but clear in his head. "They will sell me. Use me. Break me. But if you claim me, they can't." Please, Reed didn't know what to do. He wasn't a hero. He was just a cargo pilot. He didn't even know this girl. What was she? Some kind of mind speaker? A royal slave? He stepped back. "I can't," he said softly. "I don't know what this means." The girl didn't blink. She only said, "Then leave, like all the others." The merchant clapped his hands. "If you're not buying, don't waste space. She's booked for the council tonight. Maybe they'll break her in properly, eh?" Reed clenched his jaw and walked away. The noise of the market returned. The smell of fuel and fried meat filled the air. But he couldn't stop thinking about her, those glowing eyes. That voice in his head. "Claim me." Back at his ship he paced. He opened his datapad, searched Zero's laws. The word, claim, appeared in slave trade rules, some kind of temporary ownership or challenge process. Dangerous, complicated, costly. He stared at the screen. He could walk away, leave this cursed planet, forget her. She wasn't his problem, but he heard her voice again. "Or I'll suffer here, until I die." His fist slammed against the wall. He knew he was being pulled into something big. Something ugly, but those eyes. He didn't sleep that night. The next day, he went back. The tent was quieter now. Only a few aliens stood around. The cage was still there, so as she Reed stepped forward. "I want to claim her." The merchant blinked, then laughed. "You? Human? You have credits?" "No, but I want a challenge for her." Now the laughter stopped. The merchant narrowed his eyes. "Challenge? You want to fight in the arena?" Reed nodded. His heart was racing. He didn't know what he was doing, but he knew he had to try. The merchant grinned slowly. "Fine, you win, she's yours. You lose." He looked at the girl. Be part of the show tomorrow. Broken and trained." The girl's eyes met Reed's again. For the first time she smiled. It was small, but it was real. Reed took a breath. Whatever happened next, There was no turning back, and somewhere deep inside the cage, the chains shimmered faintly, almost as if they had heard him too. Reed stood outside the arena gates, his hands shaking. It was morning, but the air in Zeros Prime still felt heavy, like something waiting to fall. The arena was carved into black stone, its walls covered in glowing alien symbols. People from every corner of the galaxy came here to watch blood. He wasn't a fighter. He was just a cargo pilot who delivered tools and parts between planets. He had fired a weapon a few times in the past, but this was something else. The merchant had made it very clear last night. If Reed wanted the silver-skinned girl, Elithera, he had to win her in a combat challenge. One-on-one, no rules. One victor. The price of her freedom wasn't money, it was survival. "You fight today," said a tall alien in red armor, handing him a short blade. "No armor, no shields. Your death will be quick." "Thanks for the vote of confidence," Reed muttered inside. The arena, the crowd roared. Some cheered, some laughed, others shouted in languages Reed didn't understand. But above all the noise, he saw her Elithera chained to a silver post high above the arena pit. Her arms were bound. Her long hair hung over her face. But she was watching. She didn't look afraid. She looked like she was waiting. The gate in front of Reed creaked open. A horn sounded. He stepped into the arena. The sand was red, not from paint but from the dried blood of past fighters. Across from him, the gate on the other side opened. A beast stepped out. Huge, green skin, 4 arms, a curved horn over its head. A champion gladiator. The crowd screamed its name, Torvak. Reed's stomach turned. The beast grinned and slammed its fists together. "Weakling," it growled in a deep rumbling voice. Reed said nothing. He gripped the short blade tighter and backed into a stance. He had to stay fast. This wasn't about winning with strength. It was about surviving long enough to make an opening. Torvak charged first. Reed rolled to the side, barely avoiding the crushing fists. The creature's arms smashed into the ground, with a boom sending dust flying. Reed slashed at the leg. The blade hit, but bounced off the thick skin. Useless. He jumped back. Panting. Above, Elithera's chains sparked suddenly. One wrong move, and they could shock her, or worse. This was part of the game. If Reed failed, the girl wouldn't just be taken, she'd be punished in front of everyone. Torvak roared and came again. This time, Reed ducked and stabbed at the beast's side. Blood spurted green and thick, but it wasn't enough to stop it. Reed was thrown back by a heavy arm. He hit the ground hard. The crowd laughed. His blade slid out of his hand. Pain shot through his ribs. He looked up. Torvak was walking toward him, slow and confident. Reed crawled for the blade. The creature stomped on his leg. Reed screamed, "You die now," the beast hissed. But just before Torvak brought down his final blow, Reed reached behind him into his boot and pulled out a small, sharp spike he'd hidden during prep. With all his strength, he shoved it into the beast's foot. Torvak screamed and stumbled. Reed rolled away, grabbed the blade, and stabbed upward into the creature's throat. The arena went silent. Then the horn sounded. Again 2 low notes. The sign of victory. Torvak crashed to the ground, dead. Reed dropped his weapon. Shaking. Blood covered his hands, his face, his clothes. Above, Elithera's chains loosened. A metal platform lowered her down slowly. Her legs were weak, but she stood. The merchant walked into the arena, looking displeased. "Well," he said loudly, "by combat law, the girl is yours, human." Reed stepped forward, still gasping. He reached out a hand. Elithera looked at it. Then she touched his fingers gently. "Why did you do this?" She whispered. Reed didn't have a good answer. "You asked." The crowd began to leave, disappointed that the show was over. But some watched silently as Reed walked out of the arena with Elithera beside him. In the back of the crowd, Another merchant turned to a cloaked figure. "That girl, she's dangerous. We should have destroyed her years ago." The cloaked figure nodded. "Now she has a protector." As they walked toward the shadows of the city, Elithera leaned closer to Reed and whispered, "They won't. Let us leave." "I figured," Reed said. "Then you need to be ready, human," she said softly. "Because claiming me was only the beginning." The air in the arena tunnels was thick with dust and blood. Reed's steps echoed as he led Elithera down the stone hallway. Her legs were weak from days, maybe weeks, of being chained upright. Her arms trembled, and her bare feet stumbled every few steps. Still, she didn't complain. Reed supported her silently. His ribs ached from the fight. Every breath hurt. But when she leaned on him, something strange happened. He felt stronger. They reached a quiet corner behind the arena walls. A storage room filled with broken armor and dried meat. Reed closed the metal door and helped her sit on a pile of old cloth. "I'll get us off this planet," he said. "My ship's not far. We'll slip through before they come looking." "They already are," Elithera whispered. Her voice was quiet but calm. "You embarrassed them. You broke the rules, even if they say you didn't. They will hunt. US now." Reed looked at the glowing cuff still wrapped around her wrists and ankles. "Can these be removed?" Elithera shook her head. "They are fused to my nerves. If you try to break them the wrong way, they will burn me from the inside." Reed sighed. He had no toolkit, no plasma cutter, no safe method. And they didn't have time. Suddenly, the arena wall behind them shook. A deep thud echoed. Then another. Then silence. Elithera stood slowly. Her chains glowed faintly. "They're not waiting. They're sending in hunters now." "Mercs?" Reed asked. "No, entertainers." Reed frowned. "What?" She looked him in the eyes. "The arena is more than sport. They test rebels here, people like me. They don't let us escape. They turn our deaths into shows." Reed stepped toward the door and peeked through the crack. A six-legged armored beast stomped down the hallway, its eyes glowing red. Behind it, two handlers carried shock spears and grinned as they followed the creature's trail. Reed backed away. "We can't fight that. We don't have to," Elithera said. "But I need you to trust me." Reed turned. "What are you planning?" She stepped forward, her chains humming softly. She closed her eyes. Her body began to glow, a soft blue light pulsing from the cuffs through her skin. Reed blinked. "What is that?" "It's not just pain," she said. "These chains were made to suppress Ilari royal power. But they couldn't erase it all." The glow around her cuffs intensified. Sparks jumped between her hands. Her knees buckled, and she gasped, but stayed standing. The door behind them exploded open. The handlers charged in. The beast roared. Reed pulled Elithera behind him, ready to defend her, but she raised her chained hands and whispered something. In her language, blue light erupted from her cuffs, wild, uncontrolled. The chains on her ankles cracked. The beast skidded to a stop, growling, confused by the energy. The first handler raised his spear. Before he could strike, Elithera moved, not fast but precise. She touched the ground with one chained hand. The floor lit up. The beast screamed. Its body twisted and slammed into the wall, as if pushed by invisible hands. The handlers were flung back like dolls. Then the glow faded. The chains on Elithera's ankles dropped off, blackened and steaming. She fell to her knees, breathing hard. Reed caught her. "You just how?" She didn't speak. She couldn't. Her nose was bleeding, her body shaking. The price of freedom was pain. Reed looked at her wrists, still bound. "We need to go," he said. He helped her up again, and they moved fast through the dark halls, past broken cages and ancient bones. The arena's underground was a maze, but Elithera knew the way. She had seen the roots from above, chained in that golden cage, watching the fighters below. They reached a lift platform hidden behind a wall of rusted iron. Reed jammed the lever, and the lift groaned upward. As they rose, the city lights came into view. Neon signs, floating speeders, alien music. The world above didn't know what had just happened below. The lift stopped on a rooftop. Reed could see the launch port in the distance. His ship, the Thresher, was there, surrounded by other small vessels. They could make it. Maybe. I'll carry you, Reed said. No, Elithara said softly. I can walk now. Her steps were slow, but steady. As they moved across rooftops, Reed glanced at her again. She wasn't just some chained girl anymore. She was something powerful, dangerous, and she had chosen him to help her break free. But he also knew they were running out of time. Behind them, alarms began to ring across the city. The chains might have broken, but the hunt had just begun. The launch port looked close, but in Zeros Prime, distance was a lie. Between the rooftop and Reed's ship stood 3 armed patrols, 2 surveillance towers, and 1 checkpoint with scanners that could detect a human heartbeat from 20 meters away. Reed crouched behind a metal ledge beside Elithara. The night air was cold. Lights blinked across the city like watchful eyes. They'll scan us the moment we step down, he whispered. We need a different path. Elithara nodded, her silver skin dim under the starlight. There's a cargo route beneath the landing decks, she said. Smugglers use it to move stolen tech. If we enter through the side maintenance tunnel, we might reach the docks unseen. Reed raised an eyebrow. You know all that from being chained. In a cage? I was chained, not blind, Reed smirked. Fair enough. They moved fast, sticking to the shadows. Elithara limped slightly, her wrists still wrapped in glowing cuffs that pulsed with quiet heat. Her ankle chains were gone, but the nerve links remained. She winced now and then, but kept going. The maintenance tunnel was hidden behind a stacked wall of crates. A small metal hatch, rusted and half forgotten, opened with a groan. Inside was darkness. A tight corridor with leaking pipes and a floor slick with oil. They stepped in, careful and silent. As they walked, Elithara finally asked, Why did you really come back for me? Reed didn't answer right away. He kept walking, eyes scanning the path ahead. Finally, he said, Because no one else would. And because I've been in cages too, just not the kind you can see. Elithara didn't speak again, but her expression softened. Suddenly, voices echoed ahead. Reed pulled her into a side vent. 2 alien smugglers passed by, carrying boxes marked with blinking red symbols. They were speaking fast in a language Reed didn't understand, but the word bounty was clear. Someone placed a price on you, Reed whispered. That didn't take long. I told you, she replied. They'll never let me go. Reed narrowed his eyes. Why are they so afraid of you? She hesitated, then said, Because I am a Lari born. Not a common girl. My family ruled 3 systems, until we were betrayed. I was the last heir, sold in secret. Reed let out a slow breath. So, you're a princess? No, she said, her voice hard. I was. Now I'm just a threat they forgot to kill. He looked at her cuffs again. They didn't just forget. They wanted you to suffer. Elithara looked ahead. Then let's make their mistake hurt. They followed the tunnel until it opened into a loading bay beneath the launch port. Huge cargo lifters hovered above. Workers loaded crates onto ships. Security bots floated along the ceiling, scanning for movement. Reed spotted the Thresher. On Dock 7, his ship, his way out. We go now, he said. Stay close. But as they moved across the bay, an alarm blared. A red light flashed over their heads. Unauthorized movement detected, a robotic voice said. Stand down. Run. Reed shouted. Elithara sprinted beside him. Her cuffs sparked, reacting to the scanners. She gritted her teeth but kept moving. A blast hit the wall beside them. A patrol had fired a stun shot. Reed ducked, rolled, and kept running. They reached the edge of Dock 7. The Thresher's ramp was still down. Reed tapped his remote. The ship's engines roared awake. Suddenly, 2 guards jumped in front of them. Weapons raised. Reed drew a hidden blaster from his boot and fired. One went down. The other raised a shield, but before the second could shoot, Elithera raised her chained hands. Sparks jumped again. She shouted something in her native tongue, and a wave of blue light exploded from her cuffs. The guard was thrown backward. Screaming, she fell to her knees, the energy draining her fast. Reed grabbed her. "We're almost there." He carried her up the ramp. Inside the ship, he slammed the door shut and raced to the cockpit. Elithera lay on the floor, breathing hard, glowing faintly. Outside, more guards arrived. A transport hovered nearby. Guns locking on. Reed yelled into the ship's console. "Thrusters now!" The Thresher roared into the sky. Lasers fired from the guards below, but Reed zigzagged through them, pushing the old ship to its limit. Within seconds, they broke atmosphere. Stars filled the window. Reed let out a breath of relief. He turned to Elithera. "We made it." She opened her eyes slowly. "No, we escaped. But we haven't won yet." He looked at her, this girl who had once sat silently in chains, who now burned with a quiet fire. "Then where to next, princess?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "To a place where chains don't matter, and maybe a chance to fight back." The Thresher floated in deep space, hidden in the shadow of a shattered moon. Its lights were dimmed and its signal beacons turned off. Reed had found this place years ago, a dead zone, far from patrol routes and trade lanes. Now it was there. Only safe space. Inside the ship, Elithera sat on a padded bench in the medical bay. Her wrists still burned where the cuffs had fused to her skin. Reed knelt beside her, gently cleaning the charred marks. She didn't flinch, but he saw the pain in her eyes. "These cuffs, they're not just metal," he said. "They react to your energy." "They were made by the Council," she replied, "to keep my kind silent. I was born with power. Not all Ilari are like me. That's why they feared me." Reed looked at her, really looked this time, not just as the girl from the cage, but someone who had survived something much bigger than herself. "You said you ruled 3 systems." "My family did," she corrected. "I was meant to inherit peace. Instead, I inherited silence." She turned away, her eyes shining with memory. "The Council betrayed us. They offered peace talks, then slaughtered my people. I was taken, hidden away, sold from one hand to another. But I never forgot who I was." Reed nodded slowly. "So what now? What are you going to do with your freedom?" She met his gaze. "I want to find the others." "Others? Not all Ilari are dead. A few escaped, scattered, in hiding. I felt them once, before the chains dulled my mind. If I can find them, maybe we can rise again." Reed leaned back. "That sounds big." "It is," she said simply. "But I can't do it alone." Reed smiled faintly. "Of course not. You've got a grumpy cargo pilot with a ship held together by hope." She touched his hand. "That's more than I had yesterday." They shared a quiet moment. Then the ship's console beeped. Reed stood, moving to the cockpit. "Incoming." "Signal," he muttered. "Encrypted, old frequency." He tapped a few keys, and a distorted voice came through. "Thresher, this is Garnick. If you're flying with that Ilari girl, you've got a target on your back. Meet me at Draven Hollow. Coordinates locked. But hurry. Council hunters are already on the move." Reed's eyes narrowed. "Garnick's alive?" He looked back at Elithera. "Time to move." Draven Hollow wasn't on any star map. It was a deep space mining station, abandoned decades ago after the ore dried up. Now it was a rusted skeleton floating between gas giants. The thresher docked quietly. Reed led Elithera through cold metal halls, past flickering lights and broken machines. The air smelled like old grease and dry rot. Finally, they reached a chamber lit by blue lanterns. A bulky man with metal arms stepped forward. One of his eyes glowed red. The other was scarred and real. "Reed," the man said with a grin. "Still flying that tin can?" "Still ugly as ever, Garnick," Reed replied. Garnick looked past him. His smile faded when he saw Elithera. "You actually brought her?" "She saved my life," Reed said. "I figured she'd be dead by now." Garnick muttered. "I was supposed to be," Elithera said softly. Garnick nodded. "Come with me." He led them into a hidden room behind a false wall. Inside was a glowing map of the sector dots, signals, and moving pieces. "These," Garnick said, pointing at 5 pulsing lights, "are the last known Alari survivors, hiding on different moons, stations, ruins, scattered like ghosts." Elithera's eyes locked on the map. "I remember 2 of them. That one. That's Lisha. She was my cousin." "They've stayed hidden for years," Garnick said. "But once the council finds out you're free, they'll come for them too. You're the symbol now." Elithera stood taller. "Then I'll give them a reason to stop hiding." Garnick raised an eyebrow. "You sure? Once you light that flame, there's no turning back." She didn't hesitate. "We fight." Reed stepped beside her. "We'll get them." "One by one," Garnick snorted. "You two sound like a holodrama." But he handed them a datapad. "This has the coordinates. First one is on Aetheron Station. But be careful. The council has ears there." As they turned to leave, Garnick stopped Reed. "Listen," he said in a low voice. "You could still walk away from this. She's royalty. You're not. They'll come for her, and for anyone with her." Reed looked over at Elithera. She stood near the exit, her glowing skin catching the light, her eyes full of purpose. "I've walked away from too much already," Reed said. "This time I stay," Garnick grunted. "Then may the stars guide you, fool." Back on the thresher, as the engines powered up, Elithera turned to Reed. "You know they'll try to kill us both." "Yeah," he said, strapping in. "But at least now we get to choose where we go next." The ship lifted off, heading toward Aetheron Station. The rebel had her pilot, and the galaxy was about to remember the name Alari once again. Asterisk. The thresher dropped out of hyperspace just beyond the rings of Aetheron Station. The swirling gases lit the small planet like fire in the sky. Aetheron was once a trade hub. Now it was mostly forgotten, a floating metal city half covered in shadows and old tech. It was the perfect place to hide or be hunted. Inside the ship, Elithera stood near the window, her arms wrapped in fresh bandages. The glowing cuffs were still attached to her wrists, dimmer now but not dead. The pain came in waves. Reed had offered to cut them off, but she had warned him again, if done wrong, they could melt her nerves or worse. "The pain is worse now," she said quietly. Reed checked the navigation screen. "They're reacting to something. They're waking up," she said. "Whoever made them must know I'm free." Reed frowned, like a tracking signal, more like a leash being pulled. He looked at her, then turned toward the station coming into view. "Let's find your cousin fast and get out of here." They docked without alert, no patrols, no guards. Aetheron Station had been hollowed by age and rot. Metal scraped under their boots as they moved through the hallways, searching for Section 9, an old maintenance area where Garnick had said Lisha, Elithera's cousin, was hiding. As they walked, the air grew colder. Elithera stumbled. Reed caught her. "Your cuffs? They're heating up," she whispered. "Not from the outside. From inside me." Suddenly, the cuffs began to glow bright blue, then red. Sparks flew from the links. Her body shook. "Reed!" She gasped, falling to her knees. "They're burning." He knelt, grabbing a cloth to cover them. But the heat went through. It like fire. Stay with me, he said. We're almost there. She grit her teeth, but her skin had started to crack along the cuff's tiny fractures glowing beneath the surface. I think, she said slowly, they're trying to overload. Me, to kill me. Reed's face hardened. Not today. He picked her up, carrying her through the corridor until they reached a rusted hatch marked Level 9B. He pounded the door. Nothing. Then a voice crackled through a hidden speaker. Who are you? We're friends of Lisha, Reed said. She? Know the name Elithera. There was a pause. Then the door unlocked with a screech of metal. They stepped inside. The room was small and dim. Lights flickered above. A young woman with short white hair and violet eyes stood near a cracked console. She stared at Elithera, then gasped, You're alive. Elithera opened her eyes. Lisha. They embraced weakly, but with more strength than words could hold. Lisha helped Reed lay Elithera on a worn couch. She's burning up, Reed said. Those cuffs, can you remove them? Lisha moved closer and examined them. No, but I've been working on a disruptor. A small pulse bomb, meant to shut off slave tech for a few seconds. That might be enough. Then let's use it. Reed said. Lisha hesitated. It could also fry her mind if her body isn't ready. I don't care, Elithera said, her voice hoarse. I'd rather risk that than be their slave again. Reed looked at her, jaw tight. Okay, but I'm staying with you. Lisha connected a small device to the cuffs. She entered a sequence, then held her hand over a small switch. 3 seconds. That's all we'll get, she warned. Reed took Elithera's hand. Ready? Lisha asked. Elithera nodded. Lys pressed the switch. The room flashed white. Sparks flew. The cuffs screamed like living metal as they glowed and cracked. Elithera arched, her eyes wide, mouth open, but no sound came. Light poured from the gaps in her skin, her hair rising like caught in a storm. Then silence. Smoke drifted from her arms. The cuffs shattered, falling to the floor in 4 burnt pieces. Elithera collapsed. Reed knelt beside her, shaking her gently. Come on. Wake up. For a terrifying moment, she didn't move. Then her eyes fluttered open. Her glow had returned, but this time it wasn't from chains. It was hers. I'm free, she whispered. Reed pulled her into a gentle hug, relief washing through him. Lisha smiled with tears in her eyes. Welcome back, cousin. But before they could speak more, an alarm began to ring in the room. Lisha turned to the console. Council ships just dropped out of hyperspace. They followed us, Reed muttered. No, Elithera said, standing now on her own feet, steady and glowing. They followed me. But now they'll face me. Reed looked at her. This wasn't the same girl he met in the cage. This was someone reborn, someone dangerous, and someone who would never wear chains again. Red lights pulsed inside Etheron Station as the old walls trembled under the force of descending ships. Outside, Council dropships hovered like black insects, surrounding the docking bays. Armed soldiers began marching through the stations. Cracked corridors, weapons charged, and orders clear captured the Ilari girl alive. Kill everyone else. Inside the hidden chamber, Elithera stood tall, her body glowing with soft silver light. The chains that once bound her lay in pieces on the floor, still warm. Her breath was calm. Her eyes sharp, focused, and no longer afraid. Reed watched her from the doorway, blaster in hand. They're not going to talk, he said. They came for blood. I know, Elithera said. But they came too late. Lisha tossed a small pack to Reed. Charges. Old mining kind. We blow the support tunnels. They'll lose access for at least 10 minutes. Reed caught the pack. That's not a lot of time. It's all we need, Elithera said. Lisha looked at her cousin. What are you planning? I'm done hiding, Elithera replied. If they want to capture me, they'll have to face me as I am Alari born, not chained property. She turned to Reed. Get Lisha to the Thresher. You leave when? I tell you, Reed frowned. We're not splitting up now. But Elithera touched his arm. This isn't goodbye. It's how we say goodbye to fear. Without waiting, she moved through the hallway, her silver light casting shadows on the metal walls. Every step echoed like a drumbeat. Lisha and Reed followed, slower, carefully planting the explosive charges as they went by the time they reached the upper level of the station. Council troops had entered. Elithera stepped forward alone. The soldiers raised their weapons, then paused. She stood in the middle of the open walkway, glowing brightly. Her hair floated around her, her body humming with energy. No chains, no fear, just power. Stand down, one soldier shouted. You are under council order to surrender. Elithera lifted her hand, palm open. You no longer hold power over me. A burst of silver-blue energy shot from her hand. The front line of soldiers flew backward, their weapons shorting out. Sparks danced across the walkway. The metal groaned under the force. Reed stared in shock. She's using the same power the chains tried to stop. No, Lisha said. She's reclaiming it. Elithera walked toward the remaining guards. More weapons rose. She spoke again, her voice echoing, strange and layered. Your council lied. You serve those who destroy light. I am not your slave. I am not your show. I am the last daughter of Alari. And I choose freedom. She clapped her hands together, and the blast that followed split the floor between her and the soldiers. The metal cracked. Fire roared from below. The troops retreated, shaken. Reed's cum crackled. Now, she said. He pressed the detonator. The mines blew. A section of the station collapsed behind them, cutting off the approaching soldiers. Dust filled the air. Elithera stumbled back toward them, breathing hard. Reed caught her. You said it wouldn't be goodbye. She gave him a tired smile. It still isn't. I'm coming with you. Together, they rushed back toward the Thresher. Lisha covered their rear, blasting a drone that tried to follow. The station shook again, too much damage now. It was falling apart. They reached the ship, and Reed powered it up. As they lifted off, council ships gave chase, but Elithera placed her hand on the ship's core panel. I'll handle the jump, she whispered. The lights inside the Thresher blinked blue. The ship surged forward, moving faster than it ever had before. Stars blurred. The enemy disappeared behind them. They jumped to light speed. Silence filled the cabin. Reed looked at her, still glowing faintly, her hands trembling but her eyes calm. You saved us. She looked out the window at the stars. No, we saved each other. Lisha stepped forward, holding the map Garnet gave them. 4 more Alari are still out there. Elithera nodded. Then that's our mission. Reed smirked. I guess I'm part of a royal rebellion now. She looked at him with quiet warmth. You were the first one to see me, not as property, not as danger, but as someone worth saving. You didn't chain me, you listened. Reed sat back, his hands finally relaxing on the console. You asked me to claim you, but I didn't want ownership. Elithera leaned closer. No, you gave me something rarer than that. What's that? She smiled. A choice. Out in the dark galaxy, council beacons searched. Ships patrolled, orders were shouted, but one signal had already escaped. The signal of a girl once chained. Now free. And ready to change everything. The end.